So here I am today giving lecture on process of communication. Before starting with, I just want to think about my audience as a general audience of different cultures, students, house people, people living around the globe, of different religion, different cultures belonging to. So my presentation will be more of in general with this thing. Let's start with defining communication. Communication is transfer of information from one person to another, whether or not it elicits confidence. But the information transferred must be understandable to the receiver. Generally communication is being misinterpreted by the language. But students, people, my listeners, audience, we should not at all misinterpret with the language. Language is one of its tool. It's not the communication. There are many things, there are many ways, there are many this thing which communicate. Even if you are silent, you are communicating. Even an empty rooms communicate one or the other thing. There are many different ways people, animals or things communicate in a different ways. So communication is sharing information or ideas or emotions or anything, whatever somebody has it in mind. So this is what communication is. So let's just move over to the meaning. It is an interactive process. Yes, of course, it is an interactive process. Like there has to be two people, two groups involved, and there has to be a feedback. The people will be talking and giving answers to it. Of course, the second thing is it is a process. Steps are involved, different steps are involved. There are ideation, people talking, getting feedbacks, and n number of this interactive process is going on. So that is, it is a process. It's just not a simple thing going on. It is a big long process. Certain times it takes hours, minutes to days to years. The process continues, and that is why it is called a process also. Language as a tool we use. I have just started in my introduction that we take language as a tool. It is communication. Language is one of a tool of communication. Other than that also we are communicating through non-verbal cues, through silence. There are different languages, right? So then inferences, we'll be discussing certain examples also. Then defining communication, meaning, significance. Why we are here today to learn about communication, right? Because success is the highly competitive environment of today will depend on just on your professional knowledge and skills, but on the ability to analyze, organize and present essential information effectively. Significance is that generally people know their language very well. They may be the doctorate of the languages. Some of the languages they may be knowledgeable people. They are high professionals. They are very good technicians. But the success depends on the way how you communicate with the world also. And the significance here, the significance of the communication, the importance of communication arises. It not only gives you crispness to your success, to your knowledge, but you should know how to, where and how does you communicate. So this is what significance, its importance is that it is vital in your success. Now comes the process of communication. The communication process, as we have just discussed in the earlier slides, that it is a process actually. So whatever communication is going on, see, you can just fit this particular model. This is the basic model. This particular model can be fit in any type of communication, whether you are just talking to your friend on WhatsApp even. So there will always, this process will be happen in all type of communication. See, very first thing, as the very first step of the communication process is sender. There will always be a sender and a receiver also. You cannot have communication without a receiver. It is an interactive process, so you will have to have two people. Interaction will be going on between two people only. So there will be a sender, and sender will have an idea. Ideation. This particular process is also called this particular process is also called, this step is also called ideation. Ideation means having an idea to tell something to somebody. It may be the emotion, some information, or anything else, anything which you want to share to the other people. Like for example, you have something in mind, now you want to you start typing on your phone on WhatsApp. The second thing is sender encodes idea in message. Then the sender will encode that message. He will have to think about what message does he wants to convey and in what way. What is there in the mind, it is there in the ideation stage, but what message, how does this message has to be formed? This particular step is called encoding the message, encoding the idea, is forming the message. For example, if I want to communicate something to my student, the encoding will be different, quite different. For example, I'll be more casual, the words will be more casual. But when I had to convey the same message to my senior, it will be more formal, the language would be more formal. So this is how encoding will be take place. The third step is choosing the channel. We'll be discussing the importance of all these steps in the further slides. So the channel, we'll choose the channel, what type of message it is. So what type of channel we had to choose for this particular message. The channel plays a vital role in that. For example, if you had to discuss some big data, there are lots of figures involved in that, there are lots of data is there, so you just cannot just take out your phone and start talking on the phone. That would actually go the wrong. The channel at that place will be very wrong, right? So you had to choose the right channel for the right particular thing. Success, listeners, success of the communication actually depends on all these steps, and channel actually play a vital role. Sometimes many of the people think that the particular message have gone wrong or the particular communication has gone wrong, the language was bad or something, misinterpretations are there in the common or layman's people's mind. But certain times it's bad channel which has unsuccessful communication results. But that is how you should choose the channel properly, how you are talking to, whom you are talking to, what is the importance of messages, then only accordingly you have to choose the channel. After that, as soon as you send the message, like in a face-to-face communication, as soon as you speak out, the message is received. As it is a biological process, the sound travels and reaches the ears of the people. Same in the case of the other means, other mediums. If we send a message on WhatsApp, it will receive by the person, you see the blue tick, or if you have sent it an email, if you are called up, the person will listen to it, the voices, and he will respond automatically. As soon as the receiver decodes the message, decoding is the understanding of the message. As soon as he decodes the message, the fourth step, as soon as the receiver decodes the message, understand the message, he will automatically respond it. It can be the response could be the negative, it can be positive, it can be silent, but response will always be there. You cannot avoid that response. If you had listened something, certain times unknowingly you hear something drops out, even then your body responds. That is what the response is. That is what importance of response is. That is what decoding the message is. As soon as you understand the message and you start responding to it, and that is how you start giving the feedback. And for professionals, those who understand the importance of feedback, they hold back and then think about it, analyze about the message, and then they will give the feedback. Feedback again to the sender. The first thing, see this process coming to the fifth step again comes to the sender. Sender has an idea. And then the process goes on. If sender receives certain feedback, he may again go to the same process. He will also again send the message, the receiver, then encoding, then decoding, again the travel, and this can be an ongoing process. Fine. So this is what communication process is. So we'll just discuss certain important things. Sender, the person who begins the communication by interaction, having a thought or intended message to send to a listener. Process encoding. Encoding is creating the message transmitted from a sender to the listener. You know, when you create a message, I have just discussed it, when you form the message according to the person you are interacting with, the receiver, who the receiver is, you thought about the person, the language may differ, accordingly you form the message, you create the message, the person may be culturally different, you had to form the message accordingly. So that is why this encoding process, this encoding step is very important. Forming the message is very important. Certain times we think that I am very good in communication, or I am a very good I have a very good language, and you start talking to the person, started encoding the encoding the message in your own language, but you didn't think about the audience who is listening to my message. He may not be understanding the language. For example, here I have come and I had to speak fluently in English. If you people are not learning, if my students are not responding, what is my my sense of encoding such type of messages? So that is what you had to keep in mind the listener. Accordingly, you had to encode the message, converting your thoughts and ideas into content that can be transmitted. Then comes the message itself. You must, before sending the message, this steps has to be followed by the professionals who actually want to get benefited by the process of communication. They don't want to get the barriers into it. So all these things must keep in mind before communicating. So message is actually communication transmitted to the listener. Whatever message, it could be some the emotions, certain times it could be some professional talks, it could be sitting in the meeting talking on some different projects, new policies, or anything, a new business to be done. It can be anything, but that message is just not remember that, listeners, the message is just not being communicated by the words you speak. The message particularly is conveyed, and the results come after all these things. Like, see, one is, what is the, you should keep in mind, what is the goal of the message? Did you send the intended message? Verbal, we talk about the words. I am talking about the language you are speaking, written, spoken, sign, anything. All these words are verbal thing. After that, the vital role which plays is non-verbal. How you say it. And remember, all of you listeners, that whatever words you have spoken to will always have impact of non-verbal communication on it. The effectiveness of the message depends more on the non-verbal communication than the verbal. The words you are speaking, with those words, what is your tone is like, what is your pitch is, how you are communicating, what is your body language is, all these combined effect gives the message the effectiveness. All the combined, the verbal and non-verbal. And remember that non-verbal has more effect than the verbal, than the words. Certain times, you must all have, experience in your life that there are certain situations where many bad words doesn't have impact. If you abuse your friend certain times, he may not mind it. But in certain case, or the body language is like that, or something has happened, a few simple ignored words give impact, and certain times the relationship break upon that. So that is what the impact of message is. So one should always think about it before forming the message. So which do you think is more believable, verbal or non-verbal? Best is this match. It is nothing verbal or non-verbal. More important is the match. You should always match. Whatever you're saying, if you're welcoming somebody at your home, you should always, the body language should also welcome. Certain times you must have, everybody who have been, noticed in their life, this must be your life experience. It is my life experience is that. So when if you go into somebody's house and you knock the door, and the person opened the door for you, the words may say that you are welcome, but the body language will tell you that you are actually welcome to the house or not. That is the impact of body language, students, and you must learn how to read that. And this is a very natural phenomena. You understand the body language throughout your life. You understand your people, the other people, strangers even, their body language. You get the messages more than the words through body language, more than the words. So you must be knowing that. So match that verbal and non-verbal before forming the message. Let's move ahead. Then comes the channel. I am giving very good example for the channel. Channel means the medium you are using. You have formed the message, you have encoded the message, you have an idea in the mind to send the message, you have an opportunity to communicate with the people, you found the message, you talked about it, you prepare the presentations, you do everything. The encoding part has been done. But you should be think before sending the message which should be the right medium at that particular time, what should be the right channel at that particular time. For example, if you are sending an urgent message through email, people in today's world generally don't check their emails frequently. Yes, they do check their WhatsApp frequently, but if it's too urgent, the channel would be better that you should talk to the person in person on telephone. That would be the right channel at that particular time. For example, there is some date, there is some conference, had lots of time, after 2 months, 3 months, the email would go. The channel would be email, internet communication will be very good. So the channel plays again a vital role. Certain times it happens, listeners, that people think that I must have spoken some wrong words, or my language was not very good, or I was not very effective in my language, or something like that. As I've already told you that people are very misinterpret about the communication. Certain times, if some communication is unsuccessful, it's just not because of your effectiveness or your way of talking or your language. It is certain times channel also. Channel plays a vital role in the successful communication. Remember that. We are going to discuss a very good example of this. Shri Krishna. What are you seeing in this picture? Here Shri Krishna is showing his Virat Roop. Shlok 12 we have seen that, where he is showing his very first time he is come in its own Virat Roop. See, जब आकाश में 1000 सूर्य एक साथ उदय होने से उत्पन्न जो प्रकाश हो, वह भी उस विश्व रूप परमात्मा के प्रकाश के सदृश कदाचित ही हो। इतना विराट रूप दिखाने की जरूरत कृष्ण को, अर्जुन को इसीलिए पड़ी थी, बिकॉज इन दैट केस व्हेन ही वाज ड्राइविंग हिज चैरियट, जब वो उसके रथ के सारथी बन के बैठे थे, और वहां से भी उसको बोल सकते थे कि यू हैड टू किल योर ब्लड लाइन, you had to kill, this is your dharma, this is your duty to do this as you are a warrior. He would have said that in just simple language, sitting on that chariot, not even looking at Arjun. But he would have, there are many points come in throughout the Mahabharata where he would have shown his Virat Roop at so many people were there. Arjun was his own very beloved Sakha. But why he has shown at that particular time? Lord Krishna has used this Virat Roop as a channel. At that time, he would have communicated in that human, अपने मनुष्य रूप में भी वो सारी बात communicate कर सकते थे, but वो channel उन्होंने जो correct choose करा, वो इतिहास लिख गया. So remember that channel has its very much important in communication. Yes, after that it would be the receiver, the person who is very important for the successful communication, for the success of the process of communication. Receiver, the person or people who receive the speaker's message. And one must always have all the vitals, all the statistics of the person whom you are communicating to. That receiver is very important, the person who is communicating with you, because all the communication, its success, its unsuccessfulness, is all depends on the receiver's feedback. Whatever you want to tell, exactly it should get into the receiver's mind. And it will depend on all these things which we have been just talking about, encoding. And if you know your receiver properly, if you know the person properly, if you don't know, try to find out. Otherwise, it will all go in vain. Everything, the channel, the encoding, everything will go in vain if you don't know your receivers. Who is your receiver? That's very important. Then comes decoding, how the listener interprets and process the message transmitted by the sender. It is just not the person who was communicating part, it's about the listeners also. You had to be enough successful interaction in a process of communication. The receiver should also be very prompt. They had to be a very good listener. They should interpret the message properly. Certain times you must have everybody's life experiences must be said, that we have all listened this type of communication in day-to-day life, in our personal life, that I didn't mean that. मेरा वो मतलब नहीं था. This is a very common misunderstanding created between friends, relatives, parents, children, everybody, even in professional setups. If you don't mean that, then what was the meaning? So what were you doing as a decoder? What were your this thing? You should have interpreted properly. If there was some confusion, you should have asked it to clarify the things. The receiver has to be prompt enough. Decode the properly. Decoding is to understand the message, idea or whatever, and always remember to clarify if you have any doubt. Please be don't in doubt and respond in a bad manner or a wrong manner. Before responding to the this thing, you should always clarify yourself. Of course, and was the intended message received could go wrong here. What could go wrong here? Whatever you are sending the message for, whatever you are thinking, the sender must have something in their mind. You wanted some action to be taken by the receiver. That is why you are communicating. Is it actually happening or not? Then only you can go ahead with that. Feedback again is a very vital. You cannot just keep quiet without any notions. Certain times silence has its own language. So certain times the feedback comes in a silence way also. Certain times it happens in a non-verbal communication way. Certain times you had a proper feedback system. You had to give a proper feedback. Can be verbal, non-verbal, can be positive or negative. If you want to say no, feedback will always be there, listeners, it will always be there. If the communication has happened, you speak a word or not, the feedback will always be there. And that will complete the process of communication. So this is how certain this thing, it's actually all type of communication happens in a common frame of reference. That is why it is also called a common frame of reference. The context in which the communication process occurs, time and place is same. Certain times in a in spoken communication include physical and social components, what's happening in the world. Remember that people, that in every type of communication, always two people have a different set of languages. Even born and brought up in the same family, two real blood, even twins, even real brothers, sisters, brothers, they have a slight difference in the language. Whenever they speak, they will not speak exactly what the other person is speaking. That particular gap is called semantic gap. The languagetic gap of two people. There will always be a little bit different understanding when it will always arise. Anything that could impede the process of communication. Whatever the languagetic gap. External gaps would be noises and sounds. Internal will be if you are not very well, you're not feeling well physically, you're having high fever, or if you are emotionally shattered. That particular time you may not be communicating properly, and that can create some gap or misunderstanding. Thank you.